I think we can see you.
You can?
Yes, we can see you.
Hi.
Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 230 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today I'm coming to you from Cody, Wyoming. We're at this lovely park. It feels amazing in the shade. It's actually quite warm here. I think it was like 75 degrees today, but the sun is setting, so it's cooling off. I'm in the shade and it feels really great. We definitely have a semi-busy road going on here, so you might hear a few cars in the background, but there's not really anyone in the park right now, so it's pretty quiet as far as that goes. And I'm going to be honest, I am a little out of it today. We've had two really busy days of like working from early in the morning to late at night with like zero break in between. It's so worth it though, because that's kind of how our work is nowadays. It's a really concentrated sprint, and then we go off and we do something that's just for us, that's travel, that's not related to work. And so we're about to get to do that. Tomorrow we're going to Yellowstone, and we're going to be there probably without internet, without any access to any work, and just enjoying for several days. So it's so worth it. But I probably am going to what's the word? I'm probably going to mess up some words today, so that could provide for some extra entertainment. I do have a finished object. I've been making great progress on some of my whips, and I have some project planning to share with you today. So let's just get right into it. We are coming to the end of the Cozy Along 2024, which was a make-along to Knit or Crochet cozies, either my cozy patterns or Leslie of Knit California's Knit e-reader cozy. And we are going to close that out on May 31st, and then we're going to be drawing prizes and all of that. So that is coming very soon. I'm really proud of myself for all of the cozies that I've made this month. And I've just finished what I think is going to be my last one. I'm like, let's call it here. Today is May 28th. So I'm like, let's call it here. We did a lot. We accomplished a lot. So I talked to myself. We did a lot. We accomplished a lot. I'm really happy with it. And I am not going to cast on another cozy this close to the end of the make along. Actually, I'm probably going to be casting on some cozies next week. See what I mean about being out of it? I'm probably going to cast on more cozies next week, but not specifically for the make along, for something else. So I'm calling it good while I am ahead. So I've just finished a second Knit e-reader cozy. I actually still have my marker in here so you can see where I started this last week. So this one is going to be for my mom. I'm going to give it to her. I'll be seeing her in just a couple of weeks. And I learned some things from my first cozy. I reduced my cast on by 8 stitches, and it's fitting really great. And then I also did a different type of finishing on this one. So for this one, I did the snap band. I think that's what it was called. Let me see. I wrote it down. The snap band closure. I don't actually have any snaps on it yet, but I do have those magnetic snaps at my parents' house. I have it in my stuff that's stored at my parents' house, so I can add the snaps later when I get there. So it fits my Kindle Paperwhite like perfectly, and I believe my mom has a Kindle Paperwhite, so that is great. My first one came out too big, but it does fit my Kindle with the case on it. And I just really like the snap band closure. You do a lovely little purl round, and then you tack down. This is like double knit. You knit a couple inches, fold it over, and tack it down. The way I did mine, instead of binding off and then sewing it, is I bound off and folded it over at the same time. I actually have a tutorial on how to do this. Not with a bind off though. What did I just do? Oh, I just heard another camera. I'm like, what is that? Not with a bind off though. So I like doing it this way because I don't like sewing, and this is a lot easier. So I am kind of jealous of this one that I made for my mom, and I'm thinking about taking mine back. So mine's in the same exact color, but I just did the I-cord bind off. And then I did remember to put my elastic in here to show you today. So I got this elastic. It says beading cord elastic. I just basically got the thinnest that I could find, and I figured that was small enough for me to put on a tapestry needle and feed through there after the fact and maybe kind of drawstring things in. Hopefully that will close this up a little bit. But I actually just like the look of the snap band enclosure so much more that I might do that instead. I might pull back. So let's talk about the yarn. I love this yarn. This is Super Glow in the colorway Rain Glow. And it's a DK weight yarn. It has 246 yards. 100 grams, and I still have 46 grams left, which means each of these took 30-ish grams. The second one I did took a little bit less, I think, but I weighed this one, it took 30 grams. So I could make a whole another e-reader cozy if I wanted to. Probably not. I might just use it to add the snap band closure to my first one. All in all, I really like this pattern. It's great for on-the-go knitting. You can cast on and then you can just cruise. It's, I always feel like my cozies, my yarn cozies, and socks in general are such a good on-the-go project. But if you're looking for a project to do last minute, like you're leaving the house in 15 minutes and you need something that has easy knitting, like you're going to the movies, you're going to be on a drive, whatever you're doing, this is it, because you cast on. After you get around knit, you are established, your stitch count doesn't change, and you can just knit on and on. My main project right now is my Sporti Shrug. I really want to get this guy done, and I have been doing some great work here on the sleeves. The body is completely done, which is so nice. I love having it all finished. So let me get it untangled here, because now I've got 2 balls of yarn and 2 sets of needles. Oh my gosh. On here, and they keep getting tangled in the bag. If I had a 2-skein float tote, I would be using that right now, but I sent all of that home. The float tote really keeps things separated, but it's not that big of a deal. They take up too much space in the van. So this is the Sporti Shrug by Jacqueline Sayslag. You can make it in the super, basically it's called the shrug, but it's super, super cropped, and it goes to right here. I'm planning to wear it with tank tops when I'm hiking. You can also make it cropped, or you can make it full length. All of that's included in the pattern. They also have a tank top pattern in the same rib that is a separate pattern that you can get. So first up, I haven't finished sleeve 1, but I finished decreasing on sleeve 1. Oh, toaster. This is my toaster marker from Sam's Tiny Trinkets. I must have it on here backwards. Hang on. Let me flip that around. I don't know how that got on there backwards. Okay. There's my little toaster marker. Isn't it so cute? So I did, a decent a bit of sleeve 1. All my markers in here are marking the decreases. So I'm decreasing every so many rows, and then I put a marker in, and then I can easily just count my decreases from there. So after I had finished all the decreases, I stopped, left the yarn and the needles attached, and I went ahead and picked up sleeve number 2. Picking the sleeve up was so much smoother, so much easier than the first sleeve because I knew what I was doing. And so I just got to cruise right along and get started on the decreases for this. So I have a little tip for you that I did not come up with on my own. It has to do with these markers. And since a couple of people have asked me about them, those sprinklers? Oh, they're sprinklers at this person's house. Since a couple of people have asked me about them, I thought I would share. So on sleeve 1, as I just mentioned, I'm just marking every decrease that I'm doing. And then I can just go through it. I can count, oh, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decreases because the pattern says, decrease every X number of rows, X number of times, right? So then I can very easily count it. Now, this is the part that I definitely didn't come up with, but I don't remember who does this, that I can give them credit for it. So as I'm going through the second sleeve, rather than getting a whole new group of markers and adding them in, I am taking the markers off of sleeve number 1 and shifting them over to sleeve number 2 as I do that same spot in the pattern. So you can see here now on sleeve 1, there's no markers at the top, and then they start down here because I have been shifting them over to sleeve number 2. So as soon as I finish doing all of the short rows and shoulder shaping, I put in this marker, and I did make it blue because I wanted this to be like, okay, this is the start of where I'm just working in the round for the sleeve. And then my decrease markers are silver, just the uncoated ones. So far I've done 2 decreases. I think I actually just did another one, so I'll put the marker in on the next round. But rather than having to bring other markers with me or I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun because now I can just go, oh, let me take this marker. I've done the third decrease and put it over here. And it's like, kind of like I'm counting down to where I need to be matching on sleeve number 2. And I don't know why that just delights me so much. And it's also just convenient because I don't have to bring around other markers with me. So I am enjoying that so much. I haven't tried this on since I started. Actually, I did try it on when I had gotten to about here. Ugh, man. I did try it on when I got to about right here on the sleeve, but I haven't tried it on since, and they look really skinny, but it is because they're ribbed. There's so much dog hair on this. Most of the time that I am knitting nowadays is when we're in the car, I'm in the passenger seat and Toaster is in my lap. So my project is literally on top of him and it just gets covered in dog hair. But if I didn't do that, I don't think I would get like any knitting done because we're just going nonstop. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm really pleased with my progress on this. I guess I will move Toaster over here so I can remember where I finished this week. The final project I've been working on is, of course, my Hexie blanket. I didn't bring it out with me today. It's just too much to have like in my lap. I don't have a table around me or anything, so I just didn't bring it out today, but we will show it to you. I'll make sure to get a really good close-up of each of the Hexies that I've added. I've only added a few. This week we've been in, how many states? We've been in Washington. We drove through Idaho. We didn't do any stops there. And then we were in Montana and finally here in Wyoming. So I have yarn that represents those things. The first yarn store we stopped at this week was the Hook and Needle in Spokane, Washington. I had a few people reach out to me and say, are you coming through Spokane? And we didn't think that we were, and then we kind of were last minute. And so we had a really fun time. I'll share more about that in the In Our Travels segment, but we did go to the Hook and Needle in Spokane. It's a great yarn shop, huge. Actually, they have 2 storefronts and we had a lovely time there. I got to shop around with, the different yarns. They had a couple of local yarns, which is what I was looking for, but they also had a whole other room. They had a lot of commercial yarns too. They had looms. I mean, they just had a ton of stuff. And then they had this great space for sitting and knitting. So that was really lovely. Sat there, hung out for a little bit, but I did end up getting a Washington yarn, and that's the one that I put in my blanket. So this one was from Two Springs Fiber Arts. They had full skeins of Two Springs Fiber Arts, but they also had mini skeins. So whenever there's mini skeins available, I'm like, okay, that would be great for this blanket. Then I don't have a leftover that I need to do something with. So this mini skein has no name that I could tell. There wasn't a matching full skein for me to see the colorway, but I really, really, really like how this came out. It just kind of drew my attention as something different than colors that I normally get. I don't normally go for navy blue, and it just, I don't know, it crocheted up so pretty. The next yarn store that we went to, actually this is not chronological, but this is how I added them into my blanket. We went to Yarn and Honey in Great Falls, Montana. This store also very, very lovely. Oh, and I forgot to say one thing about Hook and Needle in Spokane. They are moving. So if you are living in the area or if you plan to go through, just make sure to pay attention to their social media because at some point they're going to be moving. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but they did let us know that. Okay, it reminded me because Yarn and Honey is also moving, which is interesting. I love that we're coming upon stores in, maybe not original locations, but like one location, and then maybe if we ever come through again, they're going to be somewhere else. These stores are growing and expanding and finding better places for them. And I think that's amazing. I love seeing that. So Yarn and Honey is in Great Falls, Montana. I really feel like I said Minnesota before. I really hope I didn't say that, but I would not be. I would not be surprised. Montana. And they have a great selection of Wyoming. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Montana and Wyoming really, but Montana raised wool that you can get. They had so many colorways called Big Sky. Montana is of course Big Sky. And so there was so many fun things to choose from, but I was really looking for something for my blanket. So I ended up with Mountain Colors, and Mountain Colors although it's a separate business, is in the basement of the same building where Yarn and Honey currently is. And so that was really cool because it was super, super local, you know, in Great Falls, but also on that block. So they had a Big Sky colorway, which I snatched up and had to add that into my blanket. And then the other one, I haven't attached it yet, but I have crocheted it up, is a Yarn and Honey colorway. I'm always a sucker for a colorway that is named after the store. Now, this store is called Yarn and Honey because the owner, her family has a honey farm. So we also got some honey, and I'm really excited to try it. I just think that's super fun, super quaint. Okay, last yarn store that we went to, that's not actually true, but I'm going to save the Wyoming stores that we went to talk about next week because there's just too much to talk about. But the last store we went to in Montana was Farmer's Daughter Fibers, also in Great Falls, Montana. Okay, I promise you I'm not doing this on purpose. I feel like I said it in the beginning that I'm going to mess up words, and then it's just happening. It's just happening, and that's just, this is just the way that it is. If this is your first episode, I am so sorry. Maybe go watch last week's first. Okay, Farmer's Daughter Fibers, absolutely incredible. Totally different store than Yarn and Honey. They carry mostly, Farmer's Daughter Fibers carries mostly their own yarn, and it's incredible. They have a lot of non-superwash yarns, a lot of Montana made or Wyoming raised sheep. I meant to say that time. That is true. And we got to meet Candace and her husband Xander. We actually filmed an entire tour just of the store and dye studio that will be coming in a month or so. So that was really, really great. I ended up getting this yarn for my Hexie Blanket. It is called Smokestack Dye House, which from what I understand has something to do with one of their other, like, one of their previous locations. There was like a smokehouse or something like that. But I just felt like the colors really read Montana, and I just really, really like them. So I crocheted this one up, but I haven't added it to the blanket either. I also got some other yarn at Farmer's Daughter Fibers, but I am saving that to share with you later on because it has absolutely nothing to do with this blanket. Despite my words today, I am trying to get my life together. Or maybe in spite of my words today, I am really trying to get it together. So I have a summer project planning video coming up next week. I have all of these amazing plans to knit and crochet for the next few months. But before I feel like mentally ready to get into that, I have a few things I want to clear off my needles, quite literally clear off my needles. And so I decided for the next couple of weeks, I'm just going to make a plan and just knock some lingering things out, finish some things that I want to finish, and hopefully get to work on some things that I've had the desire to work on, but not the knitting time to do because I've got other projects going on. So I have brought out my handy dandy notebook. I have made some project plans. You may be familiar with this. I used to do this religiously every single month, and I have definitely gone away from that. But my lifestyle is just different right now, and this is what's working for me. I kind of do it as the season changes or as my mood strikes, and it's working for me. I mean, kind of. I do feel behind all of the time, but I'm doing the best that I can. So here's what I'm planning. I have one whip that's really, really lingering, that's really, really bothering me. And it's this sock whip. So it hasn't bothered me until lately, which is why now I'm gonna finish it up. So this is a sock that I started months ago when I started reading the last A Court of Thorns and Roses book. And I wanted to make the socks while I read the book, and I mostly did. I finished the first sock while I read that book, and then I started the second sock when I started reading another book series by the same author, Sarah J. Maas. I started reading Crescent City. But lately I haven't had as much time to do my morning knitting and reading routine, and so these just aren't getting worked on at all. So I have a bunch of new yarn that just came in for sock week. I have lots of yarn to use for socks, and I need these socks cleared off the needle. So these socks are no longer sacred to morning time anymore. Kent calls it my magic morning. He's like, are you going to do your magic morning today? So I've changed it in my calendar to magic morning. But I want to just get these cleared off, and I really don't have that much more to do. I want to tell you the color name first. So this is Desert Vista Dye Works, and it is the A Quart of colorway. And these colors are from the box set of paperback books for A Quart of Thorns and Roses, and they really match really, really well. So when I pulled this out just before this to make my plans, I didn't realize that I had already worked all the way through the leg and through the heel, and that I have already started on the foot. So these are the Vanilla is the New Black socks. I've made a couple of pairs of these, but this is actually the first one that I cast on, and the other ones are finished, and this one is not finished. It has this really cool heel, and I really like it. I just think it looks really awesome. So I wrote in my notebook, okay, I have the foot and the toe to finish. That's not bad. I don't really have a hard deadline for finishing these projects and like starting my summer projects, but I am going on a vacation on June 19th. So at least a few days before that, I want to be finished with these projects and the other one I'm about to show you, and get started on new projects for vacation. So that's sort of the deadline, but I don't need 20 days or whatever to finish these socks. So what I did instead is I just wrote out little segments of the sock that I could work on that I felt like were doable on a daily basis. And then at the end, I saw how many days that was going to take. So let me see if I can show you. Basically, the first part of the foot I need to do is a decrease, like it's a decrease section. Then I have 20 rounds, another 20 rounds, and then I have the toe. So I just looked at the first sock and saw how I had placed markers in to break it down. So I figured the decrease is probably 12 rounds. 20 rounds of plain knitting, 20 rounds of plain knitting, and then the toe is like 26 rounds or 22 rounds or something like that. I figured each of those was doable for one day. Do I have to do them every single day? Do I need to assign them to certain days? No, but I feel like within 4 days or maybe even less, I could finish these socks. So I don't have a set deadline to finish this, but just soon. Oh, I just lied. I do have kind of a set deadline. I put like a goal underneath that I would like to start my sock week sock samples next Monday. Today is Tuesday, so that gives me a whole week, not a whole week, 6 days to do 4 days of knitting. I feel like that's very reasonable and a very good goal. So these are going to now sit up with me in the front of the van in the cab so that when I go to pull out a project while we're driving, it's not my sweater that I've been working on mostly. Not a bad thing. Okay, so speaking of my sweater, you've already seen this. This is the Sporti Shrug. Sporti Shrug. I want to finish this before I start my summer projects. I mentioned I just got a sweaters quantity at Farmer's Letter Fibers. I also got another sweaters quantity today, and I'm probably getting one more for a friend's new collection that I will be able to share with you soon. So yeah, I need to finish current garment so I can start another garment. With the Cozy Along this month, I was really disciplined about finishing one cozy before starting the next one, and that just worked so well for me. It meant that I didn't get bored with a project or leave it lingering, and so I think I need to take that same approach to these garments. So I'm going to finish this one, and then I'll start a new garment, and then hopefully finish that one before starting the next one. We'll see. I'll talk about it in my summer project plans. I don't really know quite yet. So this one was a little more complex to break down. So I have 2 sleeves that I'm working on. One is through the decreases. I think I have a few more inches. And then I have, the pattern has these really cool like thumb holes on it. So that's how I broke it down. I wrote like right sleeve, 3 inches. So I did 1 inch for one day, 1 inch for another day, 1 inch for another day, and then the thumb for the last day. So that's 4 days of knitting-ish. It probably won't actually take me that long. And then for the left sleeve, I could count how many decreases I have left, which is 8. Each decrease is like 11 rounds. And then, you know, that same thing at the end. I've got a couple of inches to do and the thumb. The other element for this project is that the reason I left the first sleeve unfinished is that I want to get both sleeves to the same point and then block it before I put the thumb holes in, because I want to make sure they're long enough for my arms. I have really long arms. A lot of times I have to add on a couple of inches to each sleeve. So I figure once I have both sleeves in, I can block it. I'll need a couple of days to do that, let it dry, And then I will be able to try it on and really know, because I'll have both sleeves on and I'll be able to, shrug the shoulders down and see where everything falls, how long I need to go until I get to that thumb piece. So I've added all of that in here. So this is what it looks like. It looks a little wilder. I was also doing this while we were driving, so my handwriting is never good, but it's even worse now. So I think this is right or left sleeve and right sleeve. I'm not sure if you can actually read this, but yeah, I've just broken it down with little check boxes. So I made some goals for myself. I want to finish the decreases on the sleeves by June 6th. That's a week from today. I think that's doable. I want to block it by June 8th. So that's a couple of days for me to get somewhere that has water. We'll still be in the van at that point. Get somewhere that has water, block it, let it dry. And then I want to finish it by June 12th. So that is like 2 weeks, I think, a little over 2 weeks from today. So that's probably doable. And then that way I'm free to start my new project. That's the ultimate goal, is be free to start my new project by June 15th, which is 4 days ahead of when we are leaving on our vacation. So that's the way my brain thinks about these things. I don't really have that many whips. Like, if I really think about it, it's not so overwhelming, but I don't like to leave things lingering anymore. This is a habit I've really tried to get into over the last couple of years. And again, it's just what's working for me right now. It doesn't mean that I will always be that way. There's no shame in having lots and lots of whips if that is what makes you happy. Now, one more project that it hasn't been lingering in such that it hasn't just hasn't been worked on at all, and it makes me sad and I really want to work on it. So my kind of bonus is, once I get all of these projects finished, if I have the free space, I want to work on this before I go on vacation. If not, it's going to become more of a priority when I come back. So this is my blanket of knowledge, and it is in the same exact state that you saw it in a month ago or whenever I last saw it. So this is a crocheted blanket, or I'm doing the crocheted version. And it's so fun because I'm learning so many cool new stitches. If you haven't seen this yet, this is from Hot Springs Fiber Company. Tracy designs both the knit and the crochet patterns and also dyes all of the yarn. And she's amazing. She has 8 different, not just colorways, but color inspirations that you can choose from. And it's a subscription. So you get 1 skein of yarn and a mini skein every single month. You can choose sport weight or DK, and you also don't have to do the blanket. You could do something totally different with them if you wanted to. But I've got the sport weight one and I'm doing the blanket. So these are, the colorway I have first that I started with is February. And then I have March and April. And my June one is on the way to me. I'm going to be picking it up in like 5 days in Jackson, Wyoming. And I will be picking my June one up. But yeah, I want to get working on this project and get it. I know it's going to take me a couple of months, but in a couple of months from now, I hope to get to the point where I'm waiting on my yarn because I'm finished with that month, and I can work on the next one as soon as it arrives, and just, kind of be constantly learning new crochet stitches. That was my intention for starting this project, and I want to be able to do that. But with everything else I have going on, the brain space just hasn't quite been there yet. So this is kind of my treat. I really enjoy especially learning new things with crochet because it's such a newer thing for me. With knitting, there's still always more to learn, but a lot less than crochet for me. Okay, that's everything that I've been doing project-wise, thinking about doing project-wise. So let's move on to the next segment. We've had another amazing week. We started out in Washington State, and then we spent, I would say, a good chunk of the week in Montana, and then now in Wyoming. So let's go back in time to a week ago where we started out in Vancouver. That's not true. We started out in Portland. So actually we started in Oregon this week. We've been in quite a lot of states. As we drove through Portland, we had to stop and get Voodoo Donuts, and this only has significance because this voodoo was extra cool and had really cool art on the outside and everything. And you can't go to Portland without getting Voodoo Donuts. I know they're available other places now. You can even get them in Florida, but it's still fun to get them in Portland. That day we also went to Fort Vancouver. Our original plan was to go to Mount Rainier, but the weather was really bad, and so we just decided let's not go to Mount Rainier. We'll do it later. We're coming back to Washington for Flock. So we decided let's stop at Fort Vancouver and Kent can get another Junior Ranger badge. It ended up being a really fun day. We were there on a Tuesday, and apparently Tuesday is field trip day. So they have all of the demonstrators there at the fort, and the fort is really well reconstructed. All the buildings, they've like rebuilt them as they think they were. So we went into the kitchen, which was super cool. There was someone in there that actually makes things using the methods that were used back in that time when the fort was used. So we talked to her for a long time. She was super cool. We went into the blacksmith shop and we got to see like a bear trap that the person had made. Actually, they said they were an apprentice and they were legitimately like stoking the fire and making things in the blacksmith shop, which was, it was really cool and something that I didn't expect to be learning about on a random Tuesday. So that was really, really great. Then we started going to national parks again. That's what we're here for in this area of the country right now. I mean, the yarn stores and the national parks. So we drove to Cascades National Park. Is that what it's called? Cascades? There has been a lot going on in this week, so forgive me. I'm looking at my notes a lot because I just every day I just try to be present for it and soak in as much as I can, and that's all I can do right now. But yeah, Cascades. So we did a couple of hikes. The first one was a 1.8-mile hike called the River Loop, and it was dog friendly. Actually, most of Cascades is dog friendly, a really big chunk of it, which is so nice because it's definitely not something that I'm like upset when dogs are not allowed in a park. There's always a good reason, whether it's for the, animal and plant safety or for your dog safety or just it's too treacherous. There's a reason, but it's really nice when you find a park that does have that capability to have dogs. So dog friendly. Toaster really, really loved that. This River Loop trail was like tall trees and beautiful greens. And then all of a sudden it opened up and there was just this like fog and a mountain in the distance. And then you turn another corner and it was this like sea of ferns, like really waist high ferns. And it was a really cool hike, not too hard and just like perfect for us to start out the week with. In the Cascades, the water is a really interesting color. It's this beautiful bluey green. We actually saw so many beautiful water sources over the past week. We went to Crater Lake last week. That was like a really bright blue. This one was like sea foamy almost, kind of looked like the ocean, but it was a lake. It was really interesting. I would say it's kind of what you would expect to see in like a Caribbean island. Then we drove out of Cascades and we did Washington Pass on our way to Spokane. So beautiful. We drove through the most beautiful snowy trees. I don't think that the video is going to do it justice, but it's kind of like if you just imagine a winter wonderland. I kept saying, it looks like we're in Narnia, like when it's winter. It was just so beautiful. The snow was on the trees. I don't know. It was so cool. I don't think I've ever seen snow on trees quite like that. The next day I got to Spokane and I got to meet up with Casey and Jess of Coven Collective. Coven Collective is actually 4 people that dye and make bags, but I was able to catch 2 of them that day. We went to brunch at a place called, actually I didn't write it down, so I don't remember. I think it was called the Old European. I think it's a regional chain. And I got something called a Dutch baby, which I had never had before, but when I shared it on my Instagram, so many of you knew what it was and make it at home all the time. I would say it's kind of like an eggy pancake. I got mine with powdered sugar on it and just plain. But then the waiter said, it's better if you have some jam or something on it. So he brought me, I think, raspberry jam, and that did make it taste even better. It was great. After that, we went to the Hook and Needle, which I shared a little bit about that already, but Casey and Jess and I got to do some yarn shopping, and then we sat around and we knitted for a little bit and just chatted, and that was super great. We tried Zips Drive-In, which is I think a local chain, burger, fries. It was great. I loved it. And we then drove into our 29th state of Montana. Montana is a brand new state for me. I have never been before, and neither has Toaster. Ken has been before. So always exciting to add a new state to the list. As soon as we got into Montana, we started looking for huckleberry shakes. So I got a huckleberry milkshake at this like random, very, very nice travel stop. It was great. And then something really cool happened. We pull into a gas station somewhere in Montana. I don't remember exactly what town we were in. And I was taking Toaster out to go to the bathroom. As I'm walking back to the van, this is like in the gas bay. So like our van is here and then right next to us is this other car. And I noticed that their license plate had the word knit in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if that person's a knitter. And then I noticed they were standing outside of their car and they're wearing a crocheted cardigan. I'm like, whoa, I have to talk to this person. And then they looked at me and they're like, oh, you are who I thought you were. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. So I ended up meeting Trish, who is a knitter and a crocheter, and we were actually like crossing paths. Trish was going west, we were headed east, I think that's right. And it was really cool. Trish came in and took a tour of the van. I gave her some stickers. We chatted. I found her on Instagram, and I don't know, it was just really cool that like of all places at a gas station, I got to meet another knitter, and not just another knitter, but somebody who watches either the podcast or Instagram. We didn't get to chat specifics about that, but I just thought that was such a happy thing. I was like smiling for a whole hour after that interaction. Okay, Friday, we went to Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and it was so cool. I cannot wait to share with you that yarn store tour. And then I had lunch with my friend Wanda, who is a Love and Stitches member, a long time Love and Stitches member. We've met previously in Rhinebeck, but I have, again, never been to Montana, so I got to see her. And we went to lunch, and then we went to Yarn and Honey, which was really great. And then we hung out at Wanda's, and Wanda is a dog person, and so she just spoiled Toaster to death. And it was just a really lovely afternoon. On Saturday, we woke up at a rest area. It was us and two semi trucks when I went to sleep. When I woke up, it was us and one semi truck. I mean, this was like super remote. Nobody was around. We like heard a howl as we went to bed. So, looking for coyotes and things like that. But I get up in the morning and I saw the most beautiful rainbow I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a rainbow that fully arches. I've only seen like the partial rainbows. And this one, I mean, hello, Montana, big sky. You could see the arch completely, and it was so bright and so neon. And there was even like a double rainbow happening as well. So that was super cool. Then we drove into Glacier National Park, and we spent 2 days in Glacier. We, on the first day, overdid it, and we did a 10-mile hike. I'm so proud of us because there's no way we could have done that when we started hiking in like early February, late January. So I'm really proud of us that we did it. The first hike that we did was like 3.5 miles, and we were trying to get to a Glacier National Park. We were trying to get to the glacier, and unfortunately, and we knew this starting out the trail, that it was going to be closed like 2 miles from the glacier. So we made it up as far as we could until we got to snow, and then we couldn't go any further. You couldn't see the trail, but it was still a really cool view. And then we saw some bighorn sheep and took some pictures of them, the ones with like the curly horns. So that was really, really cool. Good start to the day because we really wanted to see some animals. We came down and we walked around one of the lakes that comes from like the glacier and the snowfall and stuff like that. There was a couple that said that they had seen a moose. So we were trying to find the moose. Like we weren't like, by trying to find, I mean, as we were on our hike, we were on the lookout and alert for a moose, and we did not see one. So moose was on my list to see. I was like, all right, well, that's fine. Honestly, I'd rather not see a moose on my hike because I don't want to, interact on foot with a moose. I'd rather see one from a car. So we then tried to go to another lake, and the bridge was disassembled. We got to the last like quarter mile, and there was a small river. I mean, wide enough that you definitely couldn't cross it without a bridge, but we did not know that we couldn't get across. So it was kind of like we had two sort of failed hikes, one to see a glacier. We knew that we couldn't get to that one, and then one to see a lake, and we did not know we couldn't get to that one. So by the end of this 10 miles, we were very tired and hungry, and we didn't want to eat we brought snacks, so we didn't want to eat them because we didn't want to attract bears. So anyway, I'm still really proud of us. So we decided, you know what, we're done hiking for the day. Let's go to our campground. We were staying one night in Glacier, and on our way to our campground, we saw some mountain goats. Well, we thought they were mountain goats, but actually somebody told me that they might be the female bighorn sheep. So I'm actually not sure what these are, but they were just walking right up close to the buildings, and we saw a mom with her baby. So that was really cool. And then we saw a bear, and I maybe have seen a bear one time, but it didn't stand out in my memory enough for me to say for sure. But now I know for sure I've seen a black bear, and we saw a black bear mom with her two cubs. They ran right across the road in front of us, and then the babies were like gone into the trees, but the mom kind of lingered like right around the road for a minute. So I got some pretty great pictures of her. As we went a little further down the road, we then saw a bunch of cars stopped, and they were looking at a moose. So we also got to see a moose, which was great. This was a female moose. I'd love to see a male moose so I can see like the big, big antlers. So maybe in Yellowstone, we'll get to see that. We actually listed out some animals that we wanted to see, and we saw so many of them just in our first day. I still want to see, like I said, I want to see a male moose. I'd like to see a grizzly bear from the car. Don't want to encounter one on a hike. That would be scary. And I would love to see a wolf, but I know that's going to be probably really hard to see. We saw a second bear and deer and elk as we drove around later that evening. So all in all, such a great day at Glacier. We spent our second day hiking about 4 miles. We went to a couple of waterfalls, and again, the water, so blue, so interesting, so amazing. The rocks at Glacier are also really pretty. I'm not really a rock person, but the pebbles and even like the stones that they use to make some of the stair steps on the hikes were all different colors, like blues and browns and reds. Are really, really pretty. As we were doing this morning hike on Sunday, we saw tons of hoof prints in the mud. And so we were keeping an eye out for any animals because we didn't want to scare them. We didn't want them to be, scare us. Like, we wanted to keep an eye out. And then finally we saw 4 deer on the path, and they were just walking up the trail, and then they would kind of go off to the side, munch on some leaves, and then come back to the trail and walk up the trail. So that was really cool. Once they kind of moved off far enough that we could scoot around them without being too close, we did that. And then on our way back down, they were on the path again, and this time they did not move off that trail for like 15 minutes. So we were slowly trotting behind them, keeping a safe and comfortable distance from them. I wouldn't, obviously you're not supposed to get close to any wildlife, but I think in Glacier they recommend 2 bus lengths away from deer, elk, moose, and then 8 bus lengths, or like an entire football field away from bears and wolves. So we kept a healthy distance. I'm not super concerned about a deer, but like, they run fast and they are big, so they could definitely do some damage if they ran into you. Plus, I don't want to hurt any animals. So we kept our distance, and we just kept waiting for them to scoot off to the side. Eventually they did, and we walked past them and made our way back down. So that is this week. So many animals, so much fun. We have also been doing a lot of other stuff that I haven't even gotten the chance to post on Instagram yet because the last 2 days have been so busy. So next week, I will share some Wyoming stuff. This week's big news is that we have had our Sock Week 2024 sponsor reveal. The video went live on Tuesday, and if you go to the video, you can see all of the products, and I recommend watching the video too, just because a picture can only show you so much. In the video, I talk a lot of details. I show all the sides of the products. All of these items are not for sale yet. They are going on sale Friday, June 7th. So there are going to be 3 shop update times. I've staggered them just like we did last year. So accessories first, then bags, then yarn. So that way you have the chance to get at least one thing in every category if that's something that you want to do. The accessories are all going live at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Friday, June 7th. Then at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, the bags will all go live. And then at noon Eastern time, all of the yarn will go live. If you're like, I definitely want to get something, but I don't have time to watch the video yet, I do have the webpage all set up with descriptions and everything, photos of all the products. So I will leave that down below. Sock Week is happening. The actual make-along is happening in July 21st through the 28th. But we get all of these products ready to go early. So that way you can get the chance to order them. Our sponsors have the chance to make them and ship them off to you. So you have everything ready for you for Sock Week. You're going to see me work on a lot of the Sock Week yarns and show off the Sock Week products over the next couple of months because I'm going to get started early on mine. I want to knit up some samples and maybe crochet up some samples just to, really show off the yarns. I also have every single product to show them off, of course, but also because I love them all. And I can't possibly work on all of them during Sock Week. It's only 8 days long. So I encourage you to, if you're getting some Sock Week products and you receive them early, maybe you want to make one sock ahead of Sock Week and then have your challenge during Sock Week be to complete the second sock. Sock Week itself is a challenge just to knit or crochet one single sock. You can do more, of course, but that's the whole premise of the challenge. So I know a lot of people do one sock before and then one sock during, and then they have a finished pair at the end of Sock Week. So however you want to do it, you don't even have to work on them at all. You can just get the things because you like them. Whatever you want to do is A-okay. All right. And next week I am going to be sharing my summer project plans. Okay, let's go through our other events going on. The Cozy Along, of course, is going on through the end of May. I will be sharing prizes probably via Instagram here very, very soon. Now let's talk about some yarn crawls. The Slow Yarn Crawl is happening in Washington and Oregon, May 24th through September 2nd. The Cowboy Yarn Crawl has already started. It is in Wyoming. Hint, hint, that's why we're here. And it's happening May 27th through September 2nd. The Virginia Blue Ridge Yarn Crawl is happening in Virginia, May 25th through June 1st. Flag Wool and Fiber Festival is happening in Flagstaff, Arizona, June 1st and 2nd. The Golden State Yarn Crawl is in Northern California, June 6th through the 9th. Oh, that's very soon, isn't it? Lots of these are very soon. Exciting. The Utah Yarn Crawl is happening July 13th through the 20th. Arkansas Yarn Crawl, July 19th through the 27th. The Chicago Yarn Crawl, July 20th through the 28th. The Steel Valley Yarn Crawl is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, July 26th through August 4th. And the Boston Fiber Festival is at the SOA Market on September 8th. I know that was really fast. All of these are down below with the dates, with the titles, and with the links if they are near you and you want to attend. All right. We made it through the podcast without too many flusters. Flusters, that's what I was trying to say earlier, right? Not flubbers. I like that movie. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!